The story of Wadanohara and the Great Blue Sea focuses, of course, on the titular Wadanohara, a young sea witch who effectively acts as the guardian of her homeland, the Sea Kingdom. At the start of the game, she is coming back from a trip that she made to the realm of witches in order to further her studies of magic. She, however, is not coming back from the strip willingly. She's being summoned in order to help prevent the invasion of the Sea Kingdom by a foreign kingdom, the Totsa Kingdom. As you see, the Sea Kingdom is supposed to be protected by an impassable barrier established by Wadanohara's father, the great sorcerer Meikai. And this barrier is pretty much supposed to be invulnerable, as it's maintained by 6 talismans, which, at least in theory, should only be able to be accessed by Wadanohara herself and the great sorcerer's former familiar, who acts as kind of Wadanohara's surrogate mother. However, the Totsa kingdom found some kind of way to, while not completely break, at least crack these stones, leading to failures in the barrier, which allowed some of their soldiers to pass through and start the invasion. And so, this is Wadanohara's at least initial objective throughout the game, to travel to these various spots and to fix these talismans in order to be able to re-establish the barrier and completely prevent the Totsa kingdom from invading once and for all, or at least that's the plan. Alongside that, we also have Wadanohara's personal objective. You see, while she has 3 familiars at the start of the game, Memoka, Dolphy, and an octopus guy that I forgot the name right now, but that's definitely going to be on screen. She actually started her journey as a witch with a singular familiar, Samekishi. However, due to a certain event that she doesn't seem to even remember, Samekishi turned it from the friendly tsundere that he used to be into a straight up jerk that seems to want Wadanohara to go away from the Sea Kingdom as quickly as possible and essentially to stay out of it and away from him essentially forever. And so while she is solving this problem of her kingdom, she is also looking to investigate, to remember, to discover what exactly caused this so sudden change in her familiar. Especially because, again, he at least used to act pretty kindly to her. He used to be a pretty good person. And so she wants to not only discover what caused this change, but essentially clear his name, as he is suspected to be the trader, the person who somehow was able to sell the secrets of the Sea Kingdom to the Totsa Kingdom in order for them to be able to damage the barrier in the first place. As you've probably been able to see throughout the video, as always, Deep Sea Prisoner's art is utterly amazing. And this is then at their literal peak. From the little animations to the details in the background to the visuals and just the art style in general. I already liked Deep Sea Prisoner's art style from the beginning, and to see it evolve into this pinnacle of its quality is just absolutely beautiful to see. While I will not go into it in a lot of detail, you can probably notice, again, just from what I'm showing on screen right now, that the characters are, as always, very charismatic. Deep Sea Prisoner is not only an amazing artist, but also a genius writer that is able to create some very lovable characters. Heck, just from their designs alone and a few lines of dialogue, I already got attached and think I'll remember for a long while even characters that barely contributed to the story at all. Even their side characters are more memorable than some main characters out there. And the story is able to balance very well, again, just like with Mogeko Castle, both a serious and a comedic tone. It's able to switch between them very well and to respect both of these tones masterfully. Again, when a scene is supposed to be funny, it's really funny, and when it's supposed to be serious, it never takes you out of the experience. Heck, I'd even say that while I already praise Mogeko Castle a lot for this, Deep Sea Prisoner was able to somehow make this masterful tone mix-up of theirs even better in Wadanohara. I don't know how they made it even better than they did in Mogeko Castle, but they somehow managed to. And like obviously I don't need to tell you that the story isn't this simplistic throughout its entirety. There are lots of various mysterious and unexplained events that are again just like in Mogeko Castle supposed to be more up for interpretation or more like mindfuck, which I generally do not like, but I absolutely adored in this game. And this is very well implemented into what's a mostly standardly told story. Like it's not a story like Mogeko Castle that's supposed to be more over the top and balls to the walls. Those elements of more mystery and interpretation and more crazy out there concepts are put into the story, but it never like takes away from the standard storytelling. It doesn't turn the story into a complete nonsense fest that Mogeko Castle was for the most part. It keeps it a very standard but obviously very well told story. It maintains that standard structure while also implementing these elements whenever possible in order to enhance that a lot more. And people who saw my Mogeko Castle I guess, review. I don't really like calling them that, but anyway. They will know that I have nothing against the over the top, balls to the walls way of storytelling of that game. It's just interesting that they managed to implement those elements and make them work even in a more standard story structure. It's what I'm trying to get at. Of course, I can't be glazing everything about this game. Some things need to be bad, and unfortunately, that's once again the gameplay. I won't go into it too much since I think I went into why this gameplay sucks quite enough in my The Grey Garden review, right? Which will be on screen right now. So if you want an in-depth look at why the gameplay of both these games suck, you can go watch that because it pretty much didn't improve on that. And it's awful for the same reasons that game was awful in that aspect. Another thing I like to criticize is the implementation of sensitive subjects such as SA or non-con. Generally, I think that putting these elements in a story is not like the worst thing in the world or a complete sin, as some people seem to think. I generally think it's more of a neutral element that I neither like or am going to go on a whole rant about. But in this one specifically, I'd say it's a negative. If you are particularly sensitive to these subjects, I obviously would recommend you not play this game, as not only are they very poorly handled, but they are unavoidable as well. You need to go through these scenes in order to go through these games. It's not like in some of the other media I cover where they are either avoidable if you simply don't want to experience them or if you're a master gamer. But on a very serious note though, these elements are so badly implemented that they even manage to make me off put, which is something that's not easy due again to the media I generally consume. So even if you're not particularly sensitive, I'd recommend being wary of this. and I genuinely think it's a negative that takes away from the game. But in terms of the overall package, I'd still say that Wadanohara is good. Again, there are obviously flaws in it, but in general, it's what I'd say the peak of Deep Sea Prisoner's abilities. It's definitely their best work, the one they put the most care and love into, and the one that is the best on pretty much every objective aspect. And on a subjective note as well, this game made me feel so many divergent emotions, some of which I did not even like while I was playing, but that looking back on it, I really appreciate for the courage of the developer of implementing not the sensitive stuff that is just bad, like I said, but a lot of the other ways the game made me feel awful, those are well implemented. And looking back on it, I'm glad that those developments, those scenes, and the way those were executed are in the game. It's just a very unique, special, and genuinely, I have no better words to describe Wadanohara and the Blue Sea. Again, despite its flaws, I'd say it's a masterpiece. It's again, I know how cliche it is to say that, or maybe you might think that I'm gassing this game up too much, but I genuinely think, seriously, that it's worth your time and that you should go and play it. And for most people, I think this is the point where they should exit the video, as what I'm going to talk about now is more of a personal thing and more for like the people who are my general audience, my normal recurring fans. It's the kind of thing that you probably won't care about if you're just interested in knowing, oh, this game looks fun. Should I play it? Yes, you should. And if you don't want to hear my personal ramblings, you can exit the video right now and go play that game. Genuinely go do so. But if you are in the mood for hearing some of my personal thoughts in about it, if you're not just here for like a recommendation or a simple review, then stick around. Now, the usual fans of my content are probably going to notice that explanation I just made about the game, that summarization and the way I covered it is not how I usually cover the games I like to introduce on this channel. I went over it very superficially instead of going into the plot, especially more in detail. So why did I do that? Because I realized something with this game. Not just playing it, but looking back on my previous reviews of Deep Sea Prisoners games, is that quality that I saw in Mogeko Castle of it being very difficult to summarize while portraying what was good about it, while genuinely being able to transmit to the viewer why it was so great. It's not just a characteristic of that game. In trying to summarize the plot of Wadanohara, I found the same problem. That to fully give you a good representation of it, to be able to transmit to you in a way that keeps its charm, that actually shows why that plot, that story, those characters are so great, there would be no way to simply summarize that. I need to go scene by scene and explain the dialogues of every single character, even the side ones, because it genuinely cannot be summarized. You need to experience all of it in order to get that charm. And I couldn't identify why when I reviewed Mogeko Castle, but I think I do now. And it's because that experience of looking into the mind of an author, of experiencing essentially like an artist's web page, right? An artist's personal web page with all their creativity on display. That is the main appeal, I'd say, of Deep Sea Prisoners games. Not just Mogeko Castle, but of every single one of their games. And every single element is needed for that. Like the art, if I simply show you the art, sure, it's very unique and very well done, but it's not special. Like it's can't by itself transmit what makes these games special. The dialogue and the comedic events. If I just summarize those by themselves, they couldn't transmit to you the charm of this game. Neither could like if I simply narrated or try to summarize the more serious or standard parts of the story or the lore. It's everything. You need every single element because each of them interacts and complements each other and works together in order to create the unique appeal of these games. It's a truly unique appeal because I genuinely believe it couldn't be replicated or created by anyone else but Deep Sea Prisoner because it's a very personal appeal. It's one that needs the way they write characters, needs the way they make stories and lore. It's one that needs even those elements that would be normally not recommended. This practice that they have of just throwing characters with barely any development and that don't have too much of a impact on the story. Just kind of glorified character designs or character profiles just throw into the story with almost no impact and for very little reason. Even that contributes to the charm. And that's why it can't be summarized. That's why no matter how hard I try, I can't do it, at least, in a way that doesn't feel lame, that doesn't feel like it's taking away the charm and making it sound like something a lot more boring, a lot more standard, a lot less unique than it truly is. It's something that I can only recommend to you and tell why it's so good on all these elements. It's just something that I effectively can only tell you that you need to go play. Of course, it's not all good, like I said, and using the fact that they are pretty much only speaking to my main audience of a very interested in my content people, essentially, I can tell you that I try not to go too much into the whole sensitive topics discussion because I thought it would drag the video down, but again, given that we're in this segment already, I'll just let it all out. Essentially, the reason I find the execution of sensitive subjects in Wadanohara so much worse than in other media I've consumed is just due to its implementation. Because not only is it unavoidable, not only is it something that you need to go through if you even want to see all the content in the game, because the endings don't work on a standard requirement list, right? You need to see effectively the first ending, which is the one that mainly involves these subjects, in order to see the second and the true ending. And this is also baked into the main story in a way that is not only unavoidable, but that drags itself on and that becomes just incredibly off-putting, even more than it normally is, than this kind of thing normally is, right? And the reason that's so bad is because it's just so unnecessary. Legitimately, it doesn't add anything to the story, to the appeal, to the world, to anything at all. It's just off-putting for the sake of being off-putting. It's essentially just glorified shock value that the author didn't even have the decency of going all out in. They tried to be so subtle and to show so little in order to make it tasteful, and they just ended up making just low quality shock value essentially, because it's just as off-putting as normal shock value, and it doesn't even have the decency to go all out. It tries to be subtle and it fails tremendously. And it's not humorous in any sort of a dark joke kind of way. It doesn't even have that quality of being some perverse hentai enjoyment. It's nothing. It's literally just poorly done shock value, unnecessarily poorly done shock value that adds nothing to, again, the appeal or the story or the characters or anything. It just diminishes the experience for, again, zero reason, which is why I dislike it so much, despite generally not being too bothered by the subject. But again, aside from that, I still stand by what I said before and still genuinely believe this game to be a masterpiece. Again, despite the bad gameplay, despite these very off-putting, unnecessary scenes, despite everything, I still believe this to be Deep Sea Prisoner at their peak. And it's a damn shame that they haven't made anything after that, at least game wise. I know that they still make a ton of art. Heck, there's even a manga for this game, so they even adapted it into another format, like the story, which is quite good. But the fact that they haven't made any games after this is a damn shame, because it would have been awesome to see, like, genuinely how much better they could have gotten. But unfortunately, they, for whatever reason, haven't gone back to do anything else. And so I guess we won't be able to see that. We'll just have to content ourselves with, like, Wadanohara has the peak of their abilities. And frankly, that's fine. I would have loved to see how much more they could have improved if they gave themselves the chance, or if they were interested in making any other games besides that. But if Wadanohara is what they left us with as their last work, then it was a damn good one. And so, again, it's kind of a shame, but at the same time, it's, I think, still a very good way and a very good work to end your quote unquote career on. I hope I made myself understood with that. Went even more rambly than I normally am. But I hope you get what I'm getting at here. But anyway, yeah, that was all I wanted to say about this game. So yeah, thank you for watching. And that will be it for today. If you like this video, please do all the normal YouTube stuff. You know, like, comment, subscribe, etc. And I genuinely do hope to see you next time. If you really liked it, I'd also really appreciate if you could support me financially, either through a one-time paid comment donation or by joining my membership, where for $1 a month, you get to participate in exclusive polls in order to decide which videos I'll make next. Like, which of my plans should I focus on? Which of the content I have in mind do you want to see first? You know, that kind of thing. As well as get your name put in this fancy little screen right here. You know, just as a small gesture of appreciation, exactly for your monthly support. But of course, no matter how much you choose to give me, as well as if you choose to give me anything at all, do know that I really appreciate any cent you're willing to throw my way, as well as just the fact that you're watching this video up to this point at all. But with all that stuff out of the way, I think it's finally time to, as always, bid you guys farewell. Obscure Anime out.